Every summer growing up, my brother, sister, and I would head to my grandparents' cabin in the San Bernardino Mountains. There are a few things you could always count on at the cabin. The hammock would be set up on the front porch, marshmallows would be roasted, and Grandpa would pull out his slide projector. We would curl up in blankets with bowls of popcorn as Grandpa prepared a few carefully selected carousels for us. Pictures of ourselves and our cousins always took top billing. But Grandpa always snuck in pictures of random trips my grandparents had taken, or pictures of orange trees. My grandfather loved his orange trees. Sometimes, if we were lucky, Grandpa would even fire up the film projector so we could see ourselves in all our childish glory. What I didn't realize at the time was that this tradition had been going on for almost a century, and the dozens of slide carousels and film reels we'd go through every year were part of an enormous collection that began when my grandfather was young. Years after my grandparents passed away, my father drove up to the now lonely cabin and filled the back of his pickup with all of Grandpa's slides, movies, projectors, and screens. He then drove to my home in Portland, Oregon, and unloaded them in my basement. I remember the relief in my father's face as he emerged from the basement. He apologized with a sheepish smile and contentedly sat down with a cup of coffee. In contrast to my grandfather, my dad isn't one for holding on to the past. He once told me he finally found happiness when he realized the only things he needed were his health, the beach, and a pair of running shoes. My dad's name is Olaf Sigurd Morgan Halvorson Jr. That alone is a lot of history to carry around. For my part, I dove into my new role as historian. I bought a scanner and storage boxes, I set up shelving, I sorted and organized and scanned and archived. There were thousands of postcards, tens of thousands of slides, and hours of old family movies. Sifting through the mountains, I found several treasures. There were photos of my great-grandparents all over the world. There were pictures of my grandmother that finally shed some light on Grandpa's story of Hot Rod Susie coming in on the vapors. There were pictures of my dad growing from tow-headed toddler to rebellious teen. And of course there were the pictures and movies I recognized from the nights at the cabin. I used to think my dad ungenerous when he'd grown about the hours of his childhood spent in front of my grandfather's projector, forced to relive family vacations and get-togethers, some of which I wonder if he even enjoyed at the time. Sifting through thousands of people and places I didn't recognize, gazing across fields and fields of orange trees, and staring at thousands of posed family moments, I think I began to understand. The only tangible thing my father wanted from my grandfather's estate was our family cabin. It was built by my great-grandfather and has provided simple comforts for 5 generations of Halvorsons. Anytime you ask him about the cabin, he'll tell you about chopping wood, fixing old roofing, and replacing water heaters. His is a very practical sentimentality. One summer, Dad worked for a week cutting trees and clearing brush around the cabin. Months later, a forest fire raged through the neighborhood. The firefighters said they chose to save our little cabin because they thought they could. Like so many houses in the neighborhood with overgrown brush, it could have easily been turned to ashes, and with it, all these boxes of memories. When the scope of this task seems overwhelming, I picture my dad clearing brush simply because it had to be done. While I'm still extremely grateful to have been given this gift, I've discovered through this whole process that it's not going to be me who makes the great family documentary. But if I keep slogging away, maybe, just maybe, it will be him or her, or him or her, or her, or him, or him, or her, or her. And when I've completed my responsibility to past generations and to future ones, I'll pass these boxes on to whomever will take them and go for a run on the beach. What were you thinking when you brought me up all those videos?
I'm glad to give them to you.
Glad to get rid of them.
I want to get rid of them.
No longer your